Call this meeting to order at 7. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
Make a motion to accept the agenda. But I also see my request for the transfer of money from the Community Betterment Fund isn't on this. Does that have to be on the warning?
Yeah, the select board has to approve it.
But it has to be on the warning?
And put it on
You can add it.
other
Let's add
business.
it on the other business.
Okay. And there's another issue that I want to add, highway issue. Give a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. No, now yet.
You know, yeah.
Tim, you can hear us?
Okay.
We gotta wait for a minute. I don't have the formula. Do you wanna hold it, or?
What's that?
I said, I've got a wait permit here, but I don't have the formula or the folder to.
Describe it to me.
It's for an excavator, isn't it?
Truck, three entries for a truck, 33,000, 60,000 and 33,000. The 60 is a tandem axle, the others are single.
Yep.
And, what else do you need?
That's it.
Simple.
And that sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll,
They're responsible for the being lawful.
okay. Well, there's nothing, it's not nothing over 100,000 or anything, so that's good. Public comment.
Public comment?
Anyone here for public comments? Hearing none. Snowmobile groomer request. That is-
Yes, that's me. Alex Reeser from the White River Valley Ramblers. We've taken over since the Ridge Climbers disbanded last year. We've taken over the Royalton Trails. So we've been grooming for years, the Royalton Trails. We go up and we come back down Gee Hill, go across Bridge Street, and then we usually return over the Fox Stand Bridge. Can't do that this year. The hill coming down off Gee Hill is incredible, was really steep, and it's a real hard, kind of dangerous pull to go back up it.
Yeah.
I have talked to all the landowners so far. I finally tracked down the last two. I literally had to go to the other side of the globe to track these people down. And they've all given me a verbal yes, that we can cross through the fields and come out down by the Fox Stand in the park. So there's town property on both ends, the old Ingraham property, and then the park where the Fox Stand Bridge is. We can sneak through, come from Atlantic Plywood and pop up in the back corner of that, cross the lawn and get back without having to go back up that hill. It's just gonna be the groomer. We're putting signs up that say groomer access only.
Sure.
And it's just for 1 year, but I'm crossing town property as well, so I need permission to cross town property as well, so.
Okay,
I don't understand the route, but I don't have an issue with it, so.
you're going from,
So,
Bridge Street.
yeah, we're
Along the
gonna
river,
have to
right?
backtrack to Bridge Street.
He comes over the Ridge Street
Yeah.
Bridge.
So we're gonna, usually we go out over Bridge Street and up and return over the Fox stand. This year, we're gonna have to backtrack back down through. And instead of taking the trail out behind the Lyman's and then going up, which is where the actual snowmobile trail
Yeah.
goes, we're gonna peel left and get out and run those fields all the way. The snowmobile trail, I guess, used to actually go through it
Which fields?
years ago. All the way down through behind Vespers, behind there's hay fields and cornfields that run.
You mean Sucane and those fields along?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
and
There used to be a path through there.
Yeah,
They
years
used to
ago.
ski it all the
yeah.
time, and then when Walter English died, they discontinued it.
Okay, yeah,
But it was nice because it made a great ski trail.
well. It'll be groomed again this year if
Yeah.
I'm allowed to go through it.
Yeah.
It's, technically, there's. Get permission from.
Yeah, yeah, no,
for
no,
you to
no,
see
no.
it through.
No, I've always thought the Somo group was very respectful and good, because I was on the field there where they went through and.
Thanks
If I
very
still lived
much.
in the village, I could use that trail.
What's that?
It
Oh,
was- Along the river was nice.
yeah, that's nice. It would be nice if I actually could be a trail again, but
Yeah,
I don't think that's ever gonna happen, so.
No, yeah.
Okay,
Going forward, if there are ever any issues, snowmobile. I'm the guy. I live in Bethel, Alex Reister is my name.
we got your email.
Fine. Yes, you do.
I don't know if there's any other, I don't see any reason to contact you, but,
Yeah, well, if there ever is any kind of an issue.
okay.
I'm. The buck stops here, I guess. I got suckered into it, so.
there she is.
There she is.
All right. Thank you. I'm actually off to my snowmobile club. Thank
Okay,
you very much. Have a good one.
Were you not able to Zoom or?
My house was too crazy to Zoom from. Easier to show up. here.
We even had a school meeting.
Yeah.
I rushed from that.
Right,
They fed us.
well, I'm glad you were there, you didn't get to stay for it.
No, I couldn't say. Could eat, got to eat.
There you go.
Tim's there, so.
Yeah.
yeah, the next item is the flood hazard ordinance, we've been through, some revisions that will make things a little easier for people, I have the notes here, if you want me to go ahead and list them out,
I'd like to make a comment.
okay, go ahead.
In the last meeting, in the last select board meeting, we said that Nell and Patrick and you were gonna meet with Jacob to make edits and see how it fit together. And it turned out that, and Patrick said in the last meeting, and I think he's absolutely correct, the planning commission's work is done. But a meeting was held and one of our select board members couldn't attend because she was wrongly told that there was decisions being made. The planning commission made their case, they gave it to us. It is up to us to make edits. And there are gonna be suggestions coming out of that meeting that we would adopt or discuss and possibly adopt, and that didn't happen.
No,
And,
that's what, I'm sorry, Tim, I believe that's what's happening right now.
That's what they did.
yeah, but when you wrongly say a select board member cannot attend because there's decisions being made, there should have been suggestions being made. And all of us, whoever wanted to be there, should have been included. I think it was poorly run, quite honestly. So I'm gonna protest this because I think it was wrongly done.
Our concern was there were the potential for 3 select board members being in the same room discussing town business, whether there were any votes taken or not. that could be construed as a meeting and it wasn't warned.
Well, it was,
I offered to leave because Nell had volunteered to sit in first at our last select board meeting when we said we were gonna do this.
right, she did.
And I would have happily left it, but
Yep,
no,
Patrick offered and I think it was
yeah.
on the
so
fly.
No one was really excluded. I would have happily left and let Nell be part of the suggestion making if she had wanted to do that.
But that's like Select Board 101. There were no decisions being made. There were edits considered. And so it's fine. It's like all of us going to look at a road that might be thrown up or an issue with a road. We can all go there. We're not making any decision. So 3 of us can be there, 5 of us can be there, 1 of us can be there. I think the Geo quite strongly said only 2 of us can be, only 2 select board members can be there, and that was the wrong advice. We discussed this in the last meeting.
I think, Tim, best practice is that a site visit is gonna be different than something like working on the wording to an ordinance. And if you're all going to work on the wording of an ordinance, then you should warn it as a public meeting, just for the sake of transparency and following the open meeting law. A site visit is not the same as workshopping an ordinance.
I respectfully disagree with you. And we had talked about this the last time. These are suggestions. There was no decisions being made. Period. Let's not look into it too deeply. That's all it was. And we discussed this at the last meeting, that 1, 2, 3, 4, any amount of us could have been there. It was poorly handled. Stuart, that one's on you.
Sorry, I don't quite know what to say. I've got different conflicting opinions, so.
I showed up late too, so just to err on the side of an overabundance of, considering the last flood ordinance issue, I was just like, okay, I think maybe just to not cause any issues,
Yeah.
that's why we did it on the fly.
Yeah.
I would like the minutes to reflect my concerns and opinions and my displeasure with how this last meeting was just carried out.
We've not made any decision yet. We have taken down the,
No, I'm talking about the meeting that just took place. The planning commission's work was done. It was up to us to make the edits. Period. I'm done.
do you have the draft regulation to follow through with, to follow along?
Yes. But I trust that it was largely in place. There was 3 concerns. Being grandfathered, right?
Yeah.
The type of materials, not the amounts, the type of products. And and as I always do, is if people are working on this from the select board and they come back with a recommendation, I'm going to agree with it. So if you want to discuss what happened in that meeting, that's great. I'd like to know what the resolution is. I don't have that wording.
Okay, the first,
Hold on, give me a second, Stuart. Because then I can share the draft and we can look at it. All right. Okay, where are you in the?
I'm not anywhere on draft yet. I'm on the 3 questions that Tim just referred to.
Gotcha.
One request was to abate flood zone properties. After speaking with Walter about it, our lister, he was at the meeting. We feel that, abatement is the wrong term. What Walter suggested was that a grievance is more appropriate for problems with flood zone, areas. The properties have already been considered if they're in flood zones, so the value of the property does not, it's not something that can be abated or should be abated. And there were some other suggestions from Walter, about how the supporting his opinions, but I didn't write all those down. The second one was, request to consider different storage definition. And we did come up with a possible solution for that problem. I'll touch on that in a minute. The next one was grandfathering. To me, it was unclear what was being asked. It wasn't anything specific. It was just, I want to be able to do anything I've done in the past. Well, that also falls into one of the solutions that was proposed. So now we can go to page 7. Section 3. There's a list of A, B, C, D, and then right after that, this is, possible, activities that would be permitted by,
Are we in section 7?
yes. Okay, this is the list of, activities that may be permitted. At existing use, this falls under the grandfathering question. And I'll read the wording that we were suggested to use. Upon installment of this bylaw, non-conforming uses of parcels within the SFHA and river corridors will be permitted by the AO. If they were in the practice at the time, the bylaw in statement, the non-conforming use must be clearly defined or such, on such permit, and no additional permits will be granted for non-conforming uses that were not in the practice prior to the installment of this bylaw.
You copy and paste it, email Victoria if you want.
And Victoria has forwarded that to everybody.
So
With that,
is it grandfathered until the next flood event? Because that seems like it would be a clean slate at that point.
no, it's grandfathered, as long as the property owner owns the property. It does not allow somebody to come in new and try to claim existing use, and it does not allow somebody who has changed the use to now say they are doing existing practices, because the idea is that an existing use should be proved, something you can prove, and we're proving it by having the permit. So we're gonna issue a permit that will allow these existing uses, and in the future, the permit is your proof that you were allowed to do this. And if somebody does not have any proof, then they have to apply for a permit.
If Jacob sells his property, that ends, that the grandfather, whatever,
Exactly.
that age, section H ends.
Actually, it's new cat number 4. It's
I can't get
right
the
after
town
the
emails.
the 3.
Okay, and what does it mean upon installment of this bylaw?
Well,
Well, we adopted the bylaw.
yeah, maybe a better word would be adoption.
Okay,
Okay. Upon adoption of this, of meaning which is this flood
The
zone map?
entire,
upon adoption of this floods, okay, that's what I didn't know.
Ordinance, it should say
Or-
ordinance.
Yeah,
Ordinance.
Ordinance or bylaw, yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody has an illegal septic or outhouse or something to that effect, even though it was grandfathered, it's still wrong because it doesn't comply with the state septic law.
right,
We're
right.
not,
So we can't override that anyway.
we're not doing anything with septic or wastewater, or freshwater, because it's all governed by the state now.
It's just any of the defined non-conforming uses.
Examples are parking vehicles, in the flood zone. Storage of materials in the flood zone. And those are things that the administrative officer would have to be, they'd have to request that they continue to do the things that they've always done or have done for X number of years.
Well,
Yeah.
as Alex just said, who just left the snow machine guy, the buck stops with the select board. I believe, isn't it? Or this, not the officer, so to speak,
Well, actually,
the AO,
The AO administers the permits.
right?
yeah, so this wouldn't be an administrative permit. A non-conforming permit would have to be approved by, if you recall, Tim, the ordinance calls for establishing a board of adjustment, I think it was called.
Yeah, yeah. So
And so
the buck
those-
stops with them.
Yeah,
I just want to know.
yeah.
Here's my question on this. If this doesn't have teeth, it's not worth talking about.
Right,
When a certain business went in and changed the dynamic of the Act 250 permit, when they were called on it, the state simply said, "Yep, we blew it. We're going to let them go." So I'm not interested in adopting anything that doesn't have teeth.
no. I am 100%, 1000% with you on that. And that's why, the ordinance doesn't set out like a fine schedule or anything. That also will be up to us.
And the permit cost is up to us.
Right, but yeah, if we don't enforce it, then it's pointless to have. You're absolutely correct.
I don't understand when it says non-conforming use must be clearly defined on permit, period. I think it should be a period, and no additional non-conforming permits will be given. What does
You
that
can't
mean?
add to the permit after.
So it should
Because the-
probably say
Pre-existing,
the pre-existing.
yeah.
Okay,
So that's what it means by no further, because the only non-conforming uses permitted will be pre-existing.
the pre-existing non-conforming use must be clearly defined on the permit.
And no additional non-conforming permits will be given. So you only get what you have. You can't expand it.
So that would mean like if Jacob says, I occasionally store, what? 10 dump trucks of material on my property, 140 yards at a time. And that's what he submits, and he says, I use this property to store up to 150 yards of material at any given time. He couldn't then say, oh, well, I
Oh, by
actually
the
need
way,
to store 2,000 yards of material, so can I get a permit for
Yeah.
that? What you get is what you get.
And
Okay,
a
but-
rocket ship, and then
but
he
it's
wants to
just-
store a rocket.
Ability to submit for the permit, or
Yes.
is it?
Yes.
like, he has to come
Yes.
forward and say,
Yeah,
this is the established, this is.
right. So he'll still have to file for a permit and lay out what he's asking for.
Okay, and then I think it should stay in there. This expires as soon as this permit. And this allowance expires as soon as the land is sold,
Changes hands.
as soon as the land changes hands. It needs to have it needs to have a definition of
I think,
how long the grandfather.
I think you could do that as long as you specify that it's related to issues like temporary storage. Because otherwise, like, you're gonna have non-conforming structures. And you don't wanna say you can't sell your property with non-conforming structures.
It says
Right,
non-conforming use.
These are
This-
non-conforming uses, not structures.
So upon
Okay,
adoption
Cause they're in
of
separate sections.
Yes,
this
Gotcha.
ordinance, non-conforming use will be permitted by the AO if they were in practice at the time of instatement of ordinance.
maybe we should make that adoption also.
Can I say one thing, is that, just one example. Say a business was sold with either like a log yard or like me, like a construction business. Someone new comes and takes over the business and buys the
Uh-huh.
property,
Yeah,
do they no longer get?
yeah, I
to
would
do
say
that?
no, that's where it's
It
splitting
would
hairs.
be your responsibility to disclose that.
But say someone came and bought me out.
Yeah.
And I would have to say, okay, I've been doing this, but. since
You're gonna
you
have to
passed
find a
this
different
law
place to
20
store it,
years ago, You can't continue that?
That's
Is
right.
that what we're saying?
Yeah, we're not, the grandfathering will not
Doesn't change.
change
landowners.
hands.
That was in my head, or that's what, I don't know if that's what you
Grandfather
guys
no-
were thinking.
Only applies to the the
It
current.
doesn't go with the land, yeah, because that would,
But like if, like, for example, in towns that have zoning for, like a gas station in Queechee, for example. I know all the property that Henderson's
We're making
shop is
statement
known
with
for
that in
gasoline.
a second.
And that would go, like James Market tried to buy out Henderson so that they could get
Gotcha.
zoning for gasoline. But it obviously didn't sell, and now James Market has no gasoline, but. If you had one of these permits, so I guess we're clarifying that that permit is also not transferable.
That's right, it's non-transferable. It, once the property changes hands, the permit, you would need a new permit, and you can't,
You wouldn't be able to get.
you wouldn't be able to get.
I mean, I think that's fair to the landowners that currently are in the flood zones. Without, and limiting it to the future when it changes hands.
Any more discussion on the existing use clause? Do we want to put in do you think it's necessary to put in that?
So right now it says, upon adoption of this ordinance, non-conforming use will be permitted by the AO if they were in practice at the time of ordinance adoption. The pre-existing non-conforming use must be clearly defined on the permit. Permits for non-conforming use shall not be transferable with the deeded property rights.
Okay,
No additional non-conforming use permits will be given.
okay, so it isn't.
Sometimes you have non-conforming as one word and sometimes,
Yeah, don't
Is it
judge
hyphen?
my typos.
yeah, no, I know.
That's
Um,
a
I don't know if it-
non-conforming
It's a
spelling.
non-conforming
Yeah,
grammatical choice. Good call, all right.
Wow, good eye, Jacob.
If this is thing will work.
yeah,
Yep, you're right.
there.
Next one,
There we go.
the next one's on page 10. 2C under the
So can I ask one question?
Yeah.
If somebody has a house, basically it's non-conforming, so they can't sell it as
No.
a,
No, because uses and structures are laid out separately, Tim, so a non-conforming use is different than a non-conforming structure. And the
Okay.
structure, yeah, and the structure doesn't need to be permitted.
okay.
Okay,
Okay, so we're on two C. D, C. Yeah, under D, there's a two C. Exempted activities. There you go.
Yep.
$500. We're gonna change that. To interior improvements or repairs to existing buildings that cost less than $5,000.
need no permit.
Correct.
It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have somebody have a permit to do $500 worth of work, and it's,
No, that's not even a real number anymore, $500.
No. How long would that take, Tim? $500 worth of improvements, about?
3 minutes.
About 3 minutes, or,
Yeah.
or could we get 6 out of it?
Isn't there another section that says that improvements and repairs are allowed if they don't change the footprint?
That's for 500 a year.
That
Yeah.
answers the modeling, kitchen question. To go back, it would be an hour and 35 minutes.
An hour and 35 minutes. That's not bad. Yeah, so that's in the 500 year. This
Gotcha.
is 100 year. Yeah. And that takes into account the full value of the house. It's a percent, there's a footprint as well as a percentage of the
Thank you.
value of the house.
So, I mean, I'm just asking, would they be able to change the footprint
No, this
if it
isn't,
stayed under 5,000?
this particular clause is simply for, where'd it go?
Interior.
It's
Oh, yeah,
interior,
I'm sorry. Yep,
interior work. Yeah.
Okay,
and no, they aren't allowed to change the footprint. If they
Period,
have a
okay.
floodplain.
yep, okay.
Next one's on page 13. Section 5, there's 3, A, B, and C.
Mhm.
We're gonna change C to a D and insert a C. And the RV can only be on site from May 1st to November 15th. And the reason for this is we don't want, RVs close to the river that they can't move because of snow. There's already a Section 8 or item A says they have to be registered and licensed, but they could still get snowed in, so that's the purpose of this one.
Well, Ronna Cuddle won't like that because she specifically mentioned,
Yeah.
she stores something.
But she'd be able to
On a farm.
request a permit for current non-conforming use.
Yeah, or she can park.
Okay, so she could go back and.
Or, yeah,
Okay,
or she
okay.
could,
Park
or
it
she could
somewhere
park
else.
it for,
Yeah.
a month on the other side of the road from the house. So.
We don't have the consecutive, well, we do have the consecutive days, and those are the changes. So the big one is the non-conformance use permit. Do we have any more discussion?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
Jacob, did you like that as that addition? Or did you help create that? Was that,
He basically wrote it, he brought it in.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that. That gives us some reassurance, so we can continue
Yeah.
to do, crucial practices for, and it wasn't just me, it was like, I was thinking of Don Carbonell across the river has a log yard.
Totally
The
true,
Bulls have a firewood yard on Mill Road, there's other
People doing,
operations that do similar practices that I think will now all be able
that
to
will cover it.
fall under
Hmm.
that, yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's-
and the fact that, it doesn't transfer, do you understand?
That's disappointing to me.
Right,
But I understand the logic behind it.
Yeah.
It's definitely disappointing because if you wanted to transfer that operation to a new person or somebody new wanted to take over,
Mhm.
any of those operations, that makes that challenging, but.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it allows us to at least all continue to operate the way we have been. So that's,
Yeah, well, the goal is to clean up the floodplain.
Right.
And get stuff out of there that doesn't belong there, and, allowing it to continue for a few more years is one thing, but allowing it to continue forever is probably gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I like what you guys did. Thanks for working on that.
Jacob did the heavy lifting,
Yeah,
frankly.
awesome.
Really did.
Yeah,
Jacob,
he really did.
it's great.
Thoroughly.
Yeah.
So Tim, have you got anything more to add?
Nope.
Okay,
So
now we
now
need to vote on the.
you need
accepting-
a motion to adopt this
Adopt
particular
ordinance.
version. I will,
Well, wait, before we do that,
Yes.
aren't we going to the town
yes,
meeting with this?
absolutely correct. But we need to adopt these. We need to accept them,
The changes?
These changes,
the
Yeah,
changes.
Okay, got it.
And then, because then we can warn for town meeting.
Right.
This particular set of documents as it is.
Okay, thanks.
is this gonna be vetted by our legalese first?
Hey, what?
Is this gonna be,
Cut off there for a second.
You're breaking up.
oh, I'm sorry. Is this going to be vetted by our legal team or at least given it a once over? Because we've added language and we're not, with the exception of Patrick, lawyer.
It has been, cleared previously by Two Rivers and the state, and it will be, these changes will be run past those same people. But the changes
Okay.
really are of a nature that they should not trigger anything.
Okay,
I make a motion to adopt the changes you've made to the flood hazard area regulations.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it.
Do we need to make any others separate decision to get this warned and submitted for town meeting day vote?
We will, but we don't need to do that.
Tonight, okay,
No,
You haven't
nothing
done the
more,
warning
so
yet.
for tonight, it's enough to edit and send those for review. And then when we go to warn town meeting, then we can put it on and schedule our additional hearing, once we're sure that everything's gonna fly.
and the printing of the Australian ballot will be in time for,
Yes,
Okay.
everything should be fine.
And what was Carmen's
Cool.
comment about by December 24th?
That has to do with charter changes. It does not.
We don't have a charter.
Nothing to do
Yeah.
with
No,
that.
no,
Okay.
right, you're good.
okay,
and will it still go out in the town report,
Yes,
the whole ordinance?
yes, assuming that it bounces back and everything comes back as, yes, it's fine. I don't anticipate the select board will make additional changes, so it'll go into town report.
Okay.
Should we say if approved by the lawyer and right now?
no,
No,
I don't
we
think
don't
we
need
need to, yeah.
if they come back and ask for additional edits, we have some time to make them.
Okay, moving on to fiscal year 26 budget.
Jacob, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So probably there'll be another hearing, right?
There'll definitely be
Oh, yeah.
one before town meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Have a good night.
Yep, thanks, Jake.
So I do owe you guys one apology.
Which one?
I know. I sent you, Paul Brock stopped in my office this afternoon after I had already printed everything for this meeting with his budget number. Which is $185,850. And that's under section 108 appropriations. But otherwise, my digital copy will match your, paper copy.
To the fire department,
The fire department, yeah,
how much is it?
$185,850
Which is an increase of,
of $53,935 a year.
Yes, yeah.
what was the big jump?
So the big jump is so that Paul can start setting money aside to replace fire trucks. That's, they don't have an adequate capital reserve to be able to replace equipment.
This seems to be a recurring theme.
Sure does.
There's also, some potential legislation coming down through
Yeah.
OCHIP, which makes it
Mhm.
really rough on them.
Yeah, that could really, I mean, that has the potential to gut a lot of rural fire departments, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think Scott would sign that one.
Okay, so, are we ready to talk about this, or?
Guess we got to.
yeah, we don't have much choice.
It's a huge increase.
The big increase, unfortunately, every time I went through it and was looking for bigger numbers, the bigger numbers are for things like
Reserve. Yeah.
reserves and uncontrollable costs, like dispatch for the police department.
Yeah. You know, I've always supported the Green Mountain Economic Development Commission, and they put in this sort of boilerplate explanation of what they do, but they don't really reach out to Royalton to help us with any business development. And with all our empty storefronts and the need for housing, you would have thought they would have come to us and say, how can we help you? But, I mean, they're only what? Yeah, $1,300, so no big deal, but just seems odd that these groups don't really write their report. How are they helping your community?
Are you suggesting we remove it?
I would hate to remove it, but I'd like them to know why we're somewhat dissatisfied with them. Because they
Yep.
haven't reached out to us of how they could help. Unlike Two Rivers comes to us with ideas and Green Mountain doesn't. I mean, it's the business that Joan Goldstein was ahead of for a number of years.
Well, I don't think we're gonna find a single big ticket.
No, there's no big ticket
that we
thing you
can
can really say,
chop
ooh,
off. You know, there is a pretty good jump in the academy, buildings and grounds and for painting and,
yeah,
you know, we already discussed that that needs to be
it
done.
needs to be done. We haven't been doing it. We've been putting these things off.
Yeah, it's a lot of
And
different.
I think we're the bearers of bad deferred maintenance news is what's happening.
And we're adding a position for buildings and grounds.
Which brings him back, I know we talked about it probably till our ears bled, but the whole mowing thing. Like if we're adding position for buildings and grounds, does that or does that not include some mowing?
I think the mowing is pretty much a full-time thing.
Okay,
And what we're trying to get is someone to go around and, do some.
do everything else.
Fix a window and that kind of
Okay,
stuff.
yeah.
Cause I know with the cemetery, when we mow, they come with a crew. Of 3 or 4 people to trim and do that, and
No,
one guy could never get all our cemeteries and ball fields all done.
right, okay. I just, like I said, I know we talked about it and I just saw the number again, it's like, couldn't remember everything, so.
We did mention maybe they could take on the responsibility for cleaning buildings.
Yeah.
um,
And
Which might lower that a bit.
do we take that out or do we leave that in?
I believe we backed a lot of it
I
out.
mean,
Yeah, backed a lot of it out, yeah.
Because we were either going to have the employee do it. And that it wouldn't be a cost, or, those funds would be available to shuffle back over to paying
shuffle
a
over in,
contractor.
yeah.
Okay.
Another jump is in the cemeteries, and I understand that might be because of, labor costs and,
Labor costs and additional work they wanna do beyond what the endowment can cover, I guess.
well, the town-supported cemeteries don't have endowments.
No,
Town supported cemeteries do not have endowments, but we did add a small amount of funding for some endowment supported cemeteries. Because the dividends are not
not
covering,
covering it.
the costs.
You
and
see
they-
the lower one,
Wanna,
Pleasant Hill, Riverview, and
yes, Pleasant Hill and Riverview.
2,500.
Yep.
500, yeah.
I mean, I just keep looking at the police. Because that's the biggest number And can you just remind me, how many cars do we have for the police force? We have 3 cars, 3 vehicles.
One of which is 7 years old and is overdue for replacement. And like all the other replacement funds, doesn't have enough in it to cover that cost.
Well, the costs of everything has gone up, and the vehicles is not a
Vehicles
small
are
increase.
out of control, yeah.
Um,
I mean, the big increase there is medical insurance.
well, that I think comes from.
Yeah.
We're doing full-time.
Dispatching. Insurance again. We wanted to make a statement and say, well, it's like we'll get their $1,000, we'll say $5,000. Yeah. And I don't think anyone does the select board job for the money. It's more than a school board member gets.
Are you suggesting we waive our stipend?
Can you remind me how many people are on the police force, like full-time? There's 2 full-time, 3 full-time.
You have 3 full-time, 1 part-time regular, and then 2 part-time as needed.
Part-time.
Yeah. Who tend to come in and work just like special events, the old home days, parades, special details, that sort of thing, that we need extra coverage for.
I'm just gonna say it. What, I mean, can we have a smaller police department?
One of the complaints you hear from townspeople is that the police are not there when you need them. And it's hard to do when you're cutting back.
I'm just asking those questions. Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's the biggest item in our budget,
It's,
$500,000 plus.
you know, and I also maintenance of vehicles. I know we get supplemental money from the state for doing out of town work. I find it a really weird and confusing thing to explain to people. I can't explain it myself. Yeah, that'll be very awkward for me to, it's awkward for me to explain to people who ask me about it. It's not clear to me how the deviation of work outside of our town with our town vehicles, with our people who work for the town, but are working outside of the town, with the state highway,
The
whatever. that
governor's
is.
highway safety program?
Yes, that.
Yeah.
Very hard for me to understand and explain.
Do you ever see that income?
What?
We never see that
I
income.
don't know
do
where
we?
it is. Yeah.
You don't see those expenses either.
Either.
So it's
Oh.
common practice for the town to, it's called a special revolving
shared
fund
thing, yeah.
that we use for grants specifically. So like for the police department, it's governor's highway safety. It's run out of a separate special revolving fund. So that's where the officers' wages go. That's where all of that stuff goes, the officers' wages, and then the reimbursement that we receive from the state is in a separate fund. Because that is not paid for by tax dollars directly from the town of Royalton. It is paid for by the grant funds. It's the same as when highway is out doing the ditching projects for the stormwater compliance, where we get that separate grant and aid from V-Trans. The costs of doing that ditching project, the guys' labor, the materials, all of that runs through a separate fund. It does not run through the highway fund.
Yes, but Victoria, it's, but they're not working in our town when they're getting paid for that.
But,
Right,
but the
because
town's
that's
not
the
paying
purpose
for it,
of
are they?
the-
But they're using our car, yeah?
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
That's wear and tear on our vehicle.
Right, and you're paid a mileage reimbursement.
Okay,
for-
well, all I'm saying is that means vehicles get worn out faster, even if we are reimbursed for that. So I don't really see, it doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't. You're explaining it to me and I get that. I get it. I don't see the benefit to this town. I see the greater benefit to the greater state, the greater good. But I'm just, things that come up for me that I would like to, bring up.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, they do also utilize grant time in the town of Royalton. And with saturation patrols, particularly around the holidays. So, which is where you'll see, like Windsor County, Randolph PD. And Royalton working together in particular towns, and they move through the towns in their area. So there is grant time that is utilized within the town of Royalton in addition to other areas. It is not strictly performed outside of the town of Royalton.
I see what you're saying, but it seems like I see the Royalton police car in other towns more frequently than I see it in our town.
Right.
Might be just exception, but
And that is a lot of people's perception.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. It's when you're seeing a huge number for the police department.
Well, can I ask,
I-
can you scroll up just a little bit, Victoria, so I can see the total?
The total for police department,
For enforcement,
yeah,
It was on 2 pages,
Down.
it's 558, 147.
page 5 and
558,
6.
147.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's the total police department budget. You
Geez.
want-
So
wanted to see the top.
it's roughly $1,530 a day. So, that is a big number, but it's $1,530 a day, 365 days a year. And for all of us, I just want to look at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
It's for every Royalton resident, it's about 55 cents a day, 60 cents a day. So, I mean, that's every man, woman, child, whatever. I have less of an issue with the number than the select board has never discussed as a goal, maybe a change in how to put some of those concerns to bed by like having goals or having conversation with chief to just say, okay, got us out of some pretty dark times. Now we're in this space. What our goals we would like to see more of this. We've never sat down and had that conversation ever in the 6 years that I've been around. So I think we should. That should be one of our goals. Because I hear the same thing. I would say half the town doesn't think we need a police department. The other half feels strongly we do. I think we do. I think they're important. I think we need to discuss those concerns with our police chief and maybe bring up some of these things on how to reallocate human resources. I'm not afraid of the number, personally.
When you break it down that way, it doesn't seem
It doesn't feel
it's
so.
scary.
Right. So, I mean, in my business, we look at things per square foot. It could be a really big number, but when it turns out it's like $3.75 a square foot, so it's like, oh, that's okay, because something else is more, or it could be less. But I just want to give a different perspective because I think when you think of having a police force, I would like to see him more responsive. I'd like to see him hear more. I'd rather not see him in Randolph and Tunbridge as much as I'd like to see him here. I think we have to have those conversations before we strip everything down or say just knock this thing down 10%.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I mean, I think $1,500 a day sounds like a lot. That's just me, but.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I want Loretta like here in this town. I definitely think she's very important and valuable. I just wonder if we need to reassess that number. That is a huge number.
Yeah. To give you, my crew is twice that in an 8-hour day. And that's an 8-hour day, and they're 24 hours a day. In theory, we can get a response. So I think we have to say what value do we place on this?
It's like, the value that we place on this is 11 cents increase.
Yes,
We're,
It's
we're,
not accurate.
no,
So your 11 cents is before the fire department's budget number came in.
okay.
As it stands, your general fund tax increase is anticipated to be 13 cents. Percentage wise, as in, the difference of what we need to raise by taxes for FY 26 proposal versus what we raised this year is 21%. That works out at current, that works out to be a tax increase of about $64 on a $50,000 parcel. Or $318.70 on a $250,000 parcel. So that's kind of the range you're looking at.
Well, I don't see how we can avoid it.
I don't see when you look at it, most of the cost seems to be the insurance and salaries.
Yeah, it's honest.
And we have no heavy control unless you lay people off.
And realistically, your administrative labor for staffing is significantly less than a lot of towns of a similar size with similar needs.
If we don't want to accept this, we have to find
And
a
find
way
this-
to cut it down, and that, the only thing I can think is that we want to go to a level funded budget, but. That means finding $250,000 somewhere.
And we're just kicking the problem down the road for the next board.
Well, yeah, for a lot of things like
Mhm.
maintenance and
And we've done that too many years, I think.
vehicle funds and.
one of the things I admire about this town, both on the school and both on the town, is that we do have reserve funds. I've been on a committee with other towns that don't have $30,000 set aside. To me, that would be like having absolutely no health insurance or home insurance or anything like that. I think it's more of a reflection of real cost than like feeling good about bringing it down with deferred maintenance drives me insane. It's just insane. That's like the guardrails have gone up, whatever they've gone up $15,000 because we're actually going to buy some, and do a section which people can see and feel better about. I think it's.
I know this is off topic, but can I ask you about guardrails? Because I was just driving by some guardrails and I said, oh, well, hey, the guardrails don't look bad. It's just the fact that they've sunken into the ground. So
Right.
I'm wondering if you can reuse some of those guardrails that we already have. Side note.
I honestly, I don't know. I found out why one person at the guardrail company wasn't getting back to me. He reached out and said, I really apologize. All of the Royalton emails were going to his spam. So he wasn't responding, so I got in touch with somebody else and they were very good. So they're good. But that's another thing. We need to get on the schedule for that and crosswalks and sweeping, and we should do that in January.
So, is the highway budget, up to date, accurate, reason to?
Yes, there were no changes to the highway department
Okay,
budget.
so when you add them together,
Yeah.
that's your real tax increase, because we're only looking at the general fund.
Oh,
Right,
So
because
we-
I mean, there's
You vote
they're separate
separately.
things.
You vote
should
separately.
Look at them separately. You vote
Yeah,
them
but
separately.
we're
Yeah.
looking at the effect on the
I,
tax.
I understand, but
And that's a 28% increase
Mhm.
instead of,
the 21%. Oh, okay.
and I just wanna, I don't know what to do about it.
So that's more like $400 or 500 per $250,000
Yeah, you add the two together.
parcel,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a bummer for me.
Oh, Tim needs to build some of those buildings in town. He's
Me?
building.
I can't handle anymore.
No,
Um. 8 o'clock, yeah, I mean,
well, I'll make a motion that we approve the general fund budget that, we've been discussing. Which would include the fire department's increase.
I'll second that.
Do we want to keep discussing it? Do we take a vote? Sounds like we're gonna take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the general fund budget? Say aye.
I
Aye.
reluctantly,
Aye.
Tim, did you vote?
I did.
Thank you.
I didn't hear no.
yeah, thanks, Tim. I'm voting no, I don't approve.
Okay. No, it's fine.
No, thank you for remembering me.
No, I was waiting to hear you.
I was waiting for all those opposed.
Oh, I thought you were thinking.
I mean, I can't think of where we would cut, to make us a huge difference.
Well, the one thing we could do is. You know, we know it's a bad thing to do, but like the deferred. Not deferred, the vehicle funds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a big,
Those big reserve funds,
it would be nice to have them, but you know, what else are you gonna get rid of?
Yeah, I would say one big place to cut costs would be with, wages for. I don't need to be nonchalant about it. I know it's people's livelihoods, but I'm saying a person in the police force. That's the kind of thing that I'm saying. But that's one person's insurance, that's one person's wage. That's
How
one.
much would
person-
that, how much would that net us?
70,000.
Well, yeah,
To take out one full-time person,
Yeah, like average salary.
roughly $80,000.
So really to make an impact, Stuart, were you suggesting we have to take out 250,000?
well, we shouldn't take it all out of one department.
No, but across the board, we would need to be 250. Was I correct in assuming that, or I don't want to be wrong?
It was a topic of discussion, but that, I think you're right, yeah. That would be what we're looking, well, that would be the target.
For what? To make
To
it,
make a level funded budget.
well, that's silly, because nothing is level, like, you can't, it's gonna be. It's gonna be higher no matter what, right? But,
Well, you're the one that voted it down. So-
yeah,
or
I'm saying-
voted it
but
no.
I'm not saying that it has to be level, but I'm saying there's ways to not make it as high, right? Like, you save $80,000, you save $80,000. It's maybe not 250, but it makes a difference. Does it make a difference, or is it just the $500 extra I'm gonna pay on taxes? Is that just gonna be $490 instead when I take out 80? I don't know the math on that, but
$80,000, assuming the grand list stays the same, is just under 3 cents. It's
Yeah.
about $27,000 in expenses currently, makes up a penny in tax rate. But that's at the current grand list value.
so how much would it knock down my taxes? For, if I'm gonna pay 500 for 28% increase. coming up. Extra, on 500 plus more on my taxes.
Oh,
How much would,
my brain.
yeah, no, that's a lot of brain work right there that I have no interest in.
Of course, at town meeting, from the floor, people can vote this. Make amendments to lower or raise certain areas.
No, they
the
have to
whole
do it
thing.
in chunks.
Yeah.
That's
Do the
the,
whole-
they have to do the whole thing, which is very frustrating, right? Cause they can't say,
If they vote,
we're gonna vote down the police department. They're not gonna,
It's $50.
it's $50.
yeah, so if they vote it
Two
down,
cents is $50
If-
on a
if-
$250,000 project.
if the
Yeah, $50,
taxpayers vote it down,
okay.
we come back to looking at these sheets, is what happens. Until we come up with a number that's acceptable.
Yeah, or the townspeople can amend it. It's a floor vote, so you can amend your budget from the floor until it'll carry.
So I mean, those are real numbers. Maybe you guys, maybe it's not, but like. When Victoria says. It goes from 500 to 450. If we save taxpayers $80,000, that's not nothing. That's $50.
But it
I-
costs you service.
It
Yeah.
costs you
That,
service.
that's
which-
that's the
And
trade-off.
then,
If you don't use, and or you think you don't use, if you think you don't use.
nobody wants to pay for the fire department until their house is burning down.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And you wish you did.
No, I am just bringing this to the table.
No, I absolutely understand, and I'm not disagreeing that this is an almost unpalatable increase. But to phrase it as a service that if I don't use it, it's not worthwhile, is not an argument I want to hear.
Right, okay, no, I understand that, yeah, no, I understand that. I kind of wanna just be thoughtful about this conversation, because when we are gonna be bringing it up in
In
March.
front
I
of
want-
everybody,
I would
yeah.
like people to know that we really did talk about it,
Yeah,
and that we really did like hash it out and say audacious things like, oh, that services, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
that thing that you just said. I don't, and when I say that, Patrick, it's not like I am being kind of like devil's advocate there,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Not
So-
that,
Let's take names and faces off of everything and just say, go back to the department heads and say, we would like you, and appropriations, and just say across the board, let's cut this 8%. And the department heads would probably have a better handle on how to make that happen. I don't know. I'm just, again, a different angle.
just spitballing, yeah,
So buildings and grounds, for example, maybe we don't need the extra person. Maybe we can have 3 part-time officers. Maybe we can have a 4-person crew on the town crew. Maybe everybody who gets an appropriation is just 8% less than what they suggested. And maybe we eliminate that one appropriation that no one seems to know where it goes to. Like Nell, to back up Nell, $1,300 is $1,300, right?
Mhm.
It's 50 cents each, but it's 50 cents that it's not going up. So I don't know if that's an approach that doesn't put names and faces and like delineate good and bad services or perceived good or bad services. I don't know quite how to say it, but maybe it's easier to do it that way.
yes, and I wanna take back those words, cause that wasn't what I
no, what you
meant
meant,
to say about the police department. It's not.
But do you think that's a fair approach, or do you think it's
No, that sounds like a really good idea, Tim. It's just that I know that Victoria's like wants us to get this situated, and I don't know if we have much wiggle room with the town report going out and like.
Well, we
how-
can just, we can just adopt that right now, or 4%. You know,
I was closer to 8.
what's that? You like the one that's closer to 8?
5 might be better numbers.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I mean, I like your idea about going to Loretta and saying, or the department heads and being like, where is there anything that you can do that, you know, that we could make this lighter? Like,
I have one question to ask, sorry. Uh, in the past, like 4 years, we had a little bit of budget surplus. And I don't think we had it last year at all with the highway, but I guess my point is that, you know, maybe this exercise makes it maybe it makes us think about our budgets a little bit more than, you know, just buying gravel here when we could buy it here, or whether we can, you know, get another year out of a cruiser, or maybe we can put $125,000 into a reserve fund instead of 150, or things like that. I don't know. Just suggestions. Sounds like I was frozen.
Heard you.
No, there's
Anyways,
a lot of deep in thought here.
I'm not.
well, you guys all said yes on this, so I mean, it's, or, you know, reluctantly, not that, so we can move forward.
We have to give it our best shot, I think, but, yeah, we can move forward, but. Thought we were trying to.
I appreciate your candidness. No,
Thanks,
And-
Tim.
no, we can back up and say, you know what? I want to amend this. Like, go across the board and just say, I don't even know who. I don't know some of these appropriation folks. But I mean, I know a bunch of them, but like, I'm sorry, but it's a really tight year and we could be up 21% or 28%. We can't afford your full appropriation. I think that's fair to say.
I think initially, the people who requested appropriations petitioned to have their appropriation listed. And your policy says that if they are not requesting an increase, they can just request level funding, and then it goes as a separate article so that the townspeople can vote them up or down. The exceptions being your service agencies, fire department, rescue, town band, and the library, the town orgs.
And people have accessed the Betterment Fund more and more since in the 6 years that I've been around. And I didn't know if we can't necessarily access it, but maybe we could offset some mowing, because mowing the green to me is like just making it a very inviting place. I don't know if that's a Betterment Fund type of thing, or I don't know.
Once again, I'm getting off track. but I just wanna say, I've been thinking about it for a long time. And I really would like to, look into the idea of an option tax in, South Royalton.
An option tax?
A 1% option tax. And the reason I know about it is, from Woodstock, being in the service industry in Woodstock. When guests come to Woodstock, there's an automatic 1% charge on, liquor, food, and lodging. Or liquor, beer, and prepared food. So that's how that town, generates a little bit of extra revenue. From people who aren't the taxpayers in this town. There are people who come to this town to eat. To have Airbnb, I would think that would cover it, and probably Henderson's, that kind of thing. And I know tax doesn't sound like a good word, but I feel like, rather than the people who, the taxpayers of this town, I think that it would be nice to get, a little bit of money from people who are passing through this town and taking advantage of our green and, coming to Worthy Burger, let's say, and, passing through on their way to Stowe from Boston. Hundreds of people,
Well,
all week long.
I was in Montpelier and noticed that there was an option tax deduction on my bill. And I asked a few people that were in the same area is what this was for. They didn't know.
Yeah,
It's like they don't know what it's for.
in Woodstock, it went directly into their betterment fund.
Into the
They,
betterment fund?
yeah, into their, but, I brought it up with Daisy, because she was the first person that I was, would be afraid of to even bring something like this up. So I mentioned it to her, and she was like, I'm not completely opposed to it, but I would like you to look into, yeah, if you wanna add a 1% option tax, look into also taxing places like Dollar General, instead of just the little businesses who prepare food. I don't know if there is any option tax for that kind of, establishment. For stores like that, but. I don't know.
Well,
I
it doesn't just,
wouldn't mind looking into it.
it doesn't just hit the out-of-staters or the people who don't live here. It hits everybody.
Well, and also she did say, and if you put it into a specific fund, if you could take that money and say, okay, this is specifically for going to the road, the, maintenance, or this is specifically going towards some specific thing in our town to help offset the budget of that. And, yes, it does hit the people who go out to the bar and drink, yep. They're gonna pay 1% on that. Which we were just, by the way, poo-pooing 1% or 2% a minute ago, so. So that, and then prepared foods, and I don't go out to eat very much. But yeah, to people who go and grab a friend or sub from Daisy's, yeah, it does, and I do go there, I shouldn't say that, I don't. So I would be paying, but it's very minimal on a bill. And yet all these people who are coming through our town and leaving our town with nothing more than, yeah.
How do you collect it?
Yeah.
They said it goes, a 1% option tax goes back to the state of Vermont, and then they dole it back
Oh,
out to the
goes-
town.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
So. So it's
So-
like increasing the sales tax by,
The sales tax, yeah, and lodging, you know,
which would be Dollar General sales and
it
Parmesan
wouldn't
sale.
be.
I believe that it's hitched to rooms and meals.
Rooms and
So if
meals
it's
only,
something that would be subject to rooms and meals, then it's a 1% local option on top of rooms and meals.
And Daisy was like, can you look into something that's not just rooms and meals, something that would?
Would be the food people buy at dollar store.
No, prepare, it's
If-
usually
If
totally
it
prepared
was,
food.
if it was subject to rooms and meals tax, that's the mechanism. It's a rooms and meals add-on, is my understanding.
That makes sense. But the town gets to designate its use.
I would think we could, I mean, I don't
Well,
think.
if it's just coming back, to us from the state, I would imagine we could do almost anything we want with it.
It's, depends on what the statute says.
Yeah,
Right, and I haven't looked.
and who's gonna read that?
And I think
Perhaps
before
the
we
lawyer.
spend a lot of time on it, we ought to figure out how much it actually is, cause it may not be very much at all.
I can gather some information for you guys if you would like.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, that doesn't solve the.
That
problem
doesn't solve
at
our
hand.
immediate
Yeah,
problem, no.
but, oh,
It
and
makes us-
Jojo has a question.
Got a hand up. Go.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in that what I've read about in the paper about Hartford and whatnot, the options tax requires a charter change. I might be wrong, but that's what I remember reading. And
You do.
and just to point out to you also that nothing that's in the regular food category, excepting rooms and meals tax, is taxed anyway. So the idea of taxing the food sold at a Dollar General wouldn't have anything to do with an options tax.
Are we okay with this budget, or are we gonna amend our?
We can move on. We
Real highway to
we have
do.
4-1, so
Okay.
we can move on. If we have to come back to it, I guess the voters will tell us.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the highway fund budget.
Second that. Now discussion.
Oh, I keep trying to move this budget around.
Sorry, Tim.
Oh, that's fine. You don't want to follow my train of thought.
And again, the big things are the reserve.
Yep,
Well, maybe if we can, is it really gonna make how much difference is it gonna make to take $1,000 or $2,000 off some of these costs? And start adding it up. It might help. It won't get to 80,000, but. Who knows? I don't see a whole lot of.
I mean, hardback went up, and we know we need it.
Yeah, we gotta buy that.
it would be much less of an impact if our gravel pit,
Yeah.
did what it was designed to do. And it can change in 30 feet, but for the time being, it's not changing much.
Insurance, hardback, reserve.
Can't do anything about insurance.
And we certainly can't lower the wages because we're having a hard enough time keeping people in our
Yeah.
current rate. And we got good people, you want to keep them.
Oh, there's guardrails. We can take that right off.
Oh, there you go. We can just start piling rocks.
Stop plowing roads, we can roll them.
Yeah, there you go.
But again, the big jump in the highway improvement reserve was because we don't have enough in there now, isn't that right?
Yeah, well, and you're gonna have some debt service for North Road,
North Road.
Big North Road
which
project.
would cut into your set aside. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yep.
really,
Yeah,
The Fox Dam Bridge with the lease of the temporary bridge.
we have to lease the temporary bridge, but there's also, I mean, a box culvert is
Yeah.
$325,000 now. It just to do one box culvert, it just,
It's-
everything's incredibly expensive.
A piece of equipment when I started, like 175 was pretty safe, 185, and it's gone up astronomically. Um, is everybody quiet right now?
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, nobody had suggestions where we can cut. Let's vote.
nothing that makes any difference. Although I do question this oil and grease increase.
Your numbers for FY 24 are somewhat deceiving
Because of.
because of FEMA. Yeah, so I pulled vehicle repair costs and then also fuel, oil and grease that we'd be able to get back from FEMA off of the highway budget. Oh my gosh, 7,000 pages of North Road.
I think 7% with more in guardrail and more in equipment fund. I mean, those are it's pretty easy to provide the rationale to the community. I think. I don't think 7%'s out of line. What's that?
It's 7 cents, 15 and a
Oh,
half.
7 cents, rather. Yeah, right. I'm sorry.
And there is a lot of complaint about the road, so. Cutting
Yeah.
the road doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, we have significant increases in paving as well, paving guardrail transfers. The rest of it is fairly static. Um,
Yeah, it's like, I don't think we can do anything about the budget right now. It's like, I think we have to start thinking about the budget for the next year, like starting in January. Like you were saying, Tim, going and, meeting with people ahead of time and saying like, we wanna not spend this bunch of money in the
Right.
future. Like, I don't know, I think we should meet with Demi like once a month. Like.
He's
one of
more
us.
willing, he's more than willing to come in at any time. Sometimes in the winter, I don't bother him quite as much, but he would come in a minute. Um, I think every town is struggling with this, and it's gonna take something very creative to change or to move it off its position. Uh,
This feels like a slow moving train that continues to come at us.
right.
Yeah, so,
I mean, frankly, we're all looking at the same numbers, we're all looking at the same jumps, and there's a handful of larger items, reserve items, that kind of thing. That, like you said before, Tim, maybe for next year, maybe we commit ourselves to, overall 5% less or whatever.
Yeah.
But we also have to be cognizant that that means it's actually a bigger cut than that, because wages will go up and insurance will go up and
Yeah.
those uncontrollable costs will go up. So what we end up cutting will actually be more than what we set out to cut. Which is to say, I have no idea how we fix this.
So, I was on the school board, usually the first draft would be pretty high. And we'd say, and finally the business manager who was she was amazing. She said, what's a number that you can accept? And we'd say something like, let's start at 6%. And what that looks like, and we didn't always agree or disagree, like we didn't always cut. It forced us to really sharpen some things, I guess. But we always settled. Um, but again, went up every year. Can can we vote, or is it too early? I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin.
you've got a
Oh, we got a
motion, I'll
motion,
second it.
right, yeah, we can vote.
I'm if people are ready. If they're not, that's fine too.
I'm ready. I can't see anyone's.
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're stuck. Yes.
All those in favor of accepting the highway budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Can you waved?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear him. Approval warrants,
I looked at them, I've signed them. Whoops,
move, no. There you go.
they look fine, except for that. The one that. Tree removal on the old bank building and something else. Couldn't see it on the warning.
There were, Rita's online, you could ask her what's up with them. Rita, you on there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There were a couple invoices on the warrants that were grouped together with the summary sheets. And they had funny dates on them, like 2021 and 2023. You know what's up with those?
The credit ones?
No, one was tree removal at the old bank building, $1,500, and the other one was.
It was, Michael Bouchonese.
What?
And it's town of Royalton receipt or payments.
It was on the warrants or in the warrant?
It isn't on the warrant, it's.
Okay, it's just paperwork that was mixed in?
Yeah,
Okay, yes, those were void checks that I'm trying to resolve with E-Tech. They shouldn't have been in there.
Okay,
Okay,
we were confused what they meant.
I can see why. No, there was just three current void checks that should have showed up as credits on the warrant.
Okay, we're good? Need a motion?
make a
Sorry.
motion to approve the warrant.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting the warrants, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Brings us to other business.
Did we do did we do the transfer station budget?
No.
Could we? Did you want us to?
So John and I sat down and looked at the transfer station budget. That one is not tax supported, so it doesn't go on the warrant.
Okay.
If you want to talk about it, you're welcome to, but
No.
the transfer station's an enterprise. So usually wastewater and transfer station, we just write.
So
Yes.
they don't get any money from us?
They get an appropriation. There's an appropriation to the transfer station in your general fund budget. But otherwise it's paid for at the point of service.
Okay.
Same with wastewater.
How much is the appropriations for the transfer station?
Like $36,000.
Where's listed under which?
I think it's under 107 town operations. Maybe.
108.
Is it in 108, really? The transfer station?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I was talking appropriation.
yeah, no, we're talking transfer station.
All right, I'll shut up.
Yeah, so it is. It's under 107, expense number 1036, solid waste alliance fee, $38,500.
Okay.
And what's the transfer for capital improvement reserve for this one?
It is $50,000 for the Chelsea Street sidewalk project and then an additional $50,000 for paint of the Academy building.
Okay, I thought that was by the buildings and grounds in there, but that was because of wages, right?
Buildings and grounds went up because you're adding a full-time.
Adding a full-time position.
Maybe you talk about betterment?
Okay, we had a donation of $1,000 made to the Betterment Fund to be transferred to the Historical Society, and we need the select board needs to approve the transfer. I'd make a motion to approve the transfer of $1,000 from the Betterment Fund to the Royalton Historical Society.
Is there a second?
Me.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Alright,
Any opposed?
Can I go back and ask a question on the transfer station? And we're paying off Bethel for the buyout still, correct?
That's correct.
What happens if we stop paying?
and we,
They dumped their trash.
so we paid the attorney.
Teresa will come and get us.
When does that payoff end?
2026. We bought the transfer station in 2021. 22, 23, 24. It might be 2025. It's 25 or 26. But that comes directly out of the transfer station's operating.
Right.
So it's not on.
It's
It
in-
is not in your
It's
general
in
budget.
Okay, I thought-
The transfer station pays for itself.
Okay,
Enterprise thing.
that's the way it all should be,
Other than the appropriations that we're giving.
Correct.
which is enough.
And your appropriation is because you're part of the solid waste implementation plan, where that White River Solid Waste Alliance, that's what the fee is. So Bethel also pays one along with the other towns that participate.
Okay, so I've got another item of business on highway. Um. I've received a couple complaints about town employees using town equipment on private property. And last year, we asked this question and Demi was in the room and he said it's plowing snowplow turnarounds and school bus turnarounds. Well, according to the recent reports, it's not. It's
Okay.
using town equipment. Um. During on the clock hours, by the way. For use on private property. And
Do we know the property?
I don't have this firsthand, so it's pretty hard for me to get, I have a name, but,
Sun Mill Road.
Mill Road.
Was that
Yep.
Logwood, wasn't it, with the school bus and the town
That's,
plow?
that's a school bus turnaround, but, and
Okay.
I've answered, Demi's answered that, before, but, it is, I mean, a flat spot with, um, good sight lines.
Yeah, I'm not, if it's indeed a school bus turnaround, that is news to me.
I-
I
That
didn't
was,
know.
yeah,
I just got the report from other people and I got two separate people calling me about it and it's like, okay, well, I'll ask.
yeah,
See.
I'll confirm and I'll reach out to you, I'll call you or whatever, but I'm 99.9% sure I've answered this question like 3 years in a row. But-
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Oh.
looked at the notes from last year and that's where I got the, you know. On July 9th, we had a meeting and the answer was it was school bus turnarounds. Well. They said, no, it's not. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, yeah. And the person, on the town crew has sold that business by the, you know. They no longer own that business. But I'll confirm with Demi again. I had one other, I had a complaint and it was not a terrible complaint. It's like the folks who are accustomed to using the Foxton Bridge now have a longer commute. So we're sanding roads, probably about a half an hour before the buses go through, which makes sense. But it doesn't make sense for people going to work like at six between 6 and 6:30 because they're not sanded yet. So I'm hoping to I got that one pretty late today when I got home and I'll share that with Demi that they're finding their commute longer, so they're leaving earlier and the time frame of sanding for the bus isn't working for people who are commuting. But this was a very pleasant conversation. Not blame or anything like this. I think the Royalton's Let's Talk Royalton Facebook page is just blown up with 3 people.
Yeah.
I was well aware of it and made aware of it by some community members who are quite mad about it. Anyways, I'll confirm and get back to you, Stuart, to make sure that that's indeed what's going on.
Did you get the message from the guy we
Yes.
talked to this? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna flag it. He didn't get it flagged today, but
I'll let Demi know that as well. And just on a side note, our new person has passed. They have a CDL permit now, and they can drive the one ton. And they've been going on the road with another crew member practicing. So a route. So hopefully that will happen sooner than later. They'll get their license. If Nell, if you would like Demi here at the first meeting every month or the second meeting every month, he'll be more than happy to join you.
I'd like to see him show up once in a while. He
Yeah.
hasn't been quite a while.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'd just like to go back over our idea of like objectives for the year. You know, of starting at the beginning of the year when we don't have to worry about budget stuff, like just thinking about some the big picture.
I think that should be the reorganization meeting in March. And set a date. I think for some reason in the past, there have been people who are gung ho about it, and there are people who are like not interested. So if this group is interested, I think we should.
Okay, so guess we're out of topics. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Here's the version of the select board report. You want to read it? See if there's anything I missed.